This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Good evening, hello, and welcome to the Late Late Show. My name is Kathryn Taylor. My special guest today is Barry Madej, and we'll be discussing the challenges and possibilities for secondary science education.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Good evening. I'm Kathryn Taylor, and welcome to the Late Late Show. I'm speaking to you live from Buckinghamshire in the UK, and on tonight's show I'm going to be speaking to Barry Madej. He's the leader for physics in a secondary school in Buckinghamshire. I'll be talking to Barry about a number of things, including his experiences of teaching physics in secondary education, but also about teaching the other sciences, because science teachers are one of those teachers who have to teach across disciplines, and I'm hoping that we'll have a really good conversation around that too. So Barry has also had a keen interest in educational technology, and hopefully he'll be able to share some of his insights and some of the things he's tried and found successful in his practice as well. Remember, if you're listening in live and you'd like to join us to either ask a question in the chat or to call in, please remember to download the Podbean app. Visit ttradio.org and click on Listen Live on the homepage, and this will take you directly to the show. There you can post comments and ask questions during our conversation. Once I've spoken to Barry, I'll open up for any of you who want to call in. You can call in by pressing the icon at the top of the screen on your phone app, and click this and I'll be able to connect you. I'll be talking to Barry right after the Teacher Talk Radio news.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
SATs have made the news again as many media outlets report on allegations that children were distraught after the reading paper. The BBC website reports that parents and teachers of Year 6 pupils said the paper was difficult and that it had left some pupils in tears. In response to concerns, the Department for Education said it worked to ensure that all tests are appropriate. Whilst some parents took to social media to highlight concerns, a few also acknowledged that the tests might be good in a way to have some kind of tests before GCSE, but the schools in general are under too much pressure to perform well. Copies of the test paper cannot be published until all pupils in Year 6 have had the chance to take it. Sarah Hannafin, Head of Policy for the National Association of Head Teachers, said the union was very concerned about the paper and it would be raising concerns with the Standards and Testing Agency. In Scotland, Edinburgh University students have criticised the institution's response to a marking boycott. According to BBC News, students fear their work will not be read as the university plans to continue awarding degrees without necessary expertise to cope with the UK-wide industrial action. The marking boycott is part of the latest phase of industrial action by members of the University and College Union at 145 institutions across the UK. Union members are refusing to undertake marking duties and assessment-related work. In response, universities are considering a number of measures, including changing marking guidelines and basing final grades on work already submitted. Many students have expressed sympathy towards staff, but also frustration that industrial action has had little impact on anyone but students, as universities have not reopened negotiations. The University of Edinburgh said it has robust measures in place to reduce the impact of industrial action, and that work, including dissertations, would be read. Schools Week comment on teacher burnout after a report from Wellbeing Service Education Support shows a quarter of leaders, teachers and support staff said additional responsibilities were adding on average 4 to 6 hours to their working week. 15% of staff said they were spending an extra 7 to 10 hours supporting pupils. The collapse in support services feeding into schools, including creaking mental health support and overwhelmed SEND services, has left schools and their staff struggling to cope. Jeff Barton, General Secretary of School Leaders Union ASCL, said schools had become the de facto and unofficial branch of social and healthcare services, but that a lack of training, resources or capacity was putting staff under considerable workload stress. The most common additional responsibilities included offering pupils and colleagues emotional support and dealing with difficult pupil behaviour. More than 1/4 of staff surveyed said they had prepared food for pupils who didn't have any, and 41% said they had purchased supplies such as pens, paper and school bags. In the same YouGov survey, 2/3 of school staff said public bodies such as CAMS and social services had been unable to offer pupils support. Further details of the findings can be found on the Schools Week website. The Guardian reported on a proposal to recruit school leavers into healthcare service apprenticeships, which would allow tens of thousands of doctors and nurses to train on the job. The NHS workforce plan could see up to 1 in 10 doctors and 1/3 of student nurses trained through this vocational path in coming years. The alternative route would circumvent the standard undergraduate or graduate route. The plans have been met with criticism by unions, but Amanda Pritchard, Chief Executive of NHS England, has been speaking to pupils at a North East comprehensive school, where she encouraged pupils to earn while they learn, and highlighted the 350 different roles available within the NHS. Finally, in Wales, the BBC reports that the increasing cost of food means school caterers are struggling to deliver on the Welsh Government plan for universal free school meals. The unit price was set with an assumption about possible cost increases, but Education Minister Jeremy Miles said the world has obviously moved on and a further review was needed. The current rate of around £2.90 per child in a primary school is being described as no longer viable, as price increases of 20% on items like milk, cheese, fruit and vegetables take their toll. The Universal Free School Meals Plan is being rolled out in phases to all primary schools, although a target for every child in reception Year 1 and Year 2 to be offered a free school meal by April has been missed. The policy has been welcomed, but challenges needed to be acknowledged. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I've been searching for crazy technology. The tech I found ranges from rather funny to actually quite useful. Let's see if I can blow your mind. Everyone has probably used Google Translate at some point, even if it's just to translate a word into another language and back again to see if it changes. Well, the Google Pixel earbuds paired with the Pixel phone allow you to switch on conversation mode. Now what is being said to you in a foreign language is translated into your earbuds in real time. What you say is translated and projected via your phone. You do need an Android 6.0 or higher to do this, but this has potential to be a game changer for communicating not only when travelling, but in hospitality too. Next up is a quirkier invention, Smarty Pans. There aren't many things you can't connect to an app, and the frying pan is now joining the club. The Smarty Pan has a built-in scale to weigh your food as you add it to the pan, a handle that tells you when the pan is at temperature, and the app guides you through how to cook a meal you're preparing. Also, the nutritional content of your meal is calculated by the app. There's no advertised price for this pan yet, but keep your eyes peeled. It replaces a cookbook, reading the nutrition on a packet, and your kitchen scales, as long as you fry everything. My final crazy technology is the Hush Me. This is an invention for those concerned about being overheard by others when talking on their phone or other connected devices. It works by muffling your voice so others can't hear you, keeping private conversations private. Genius, I hear you say. I need one so I can work during my commute. Before you break out the credit card, it is a rather chunky device you wrap around your whole head. I'd describe it as a pair of large headphones that connect to a cup to cover your mouth. At just over £180 and making you look like Darth Vader, you may want to do a bit of research first. Do you know of any crazy tech? Do you own any? As always, why not get in touch at TT Radio Official? I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome back, everyone, and welcome especially to my guest, Barry. How are you today, Barry? Are you there?
Hi, Kathryn. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Managed to log on and everything, so looking forward to this.
Fabulous, thank you so much. Well, Barry, welcome to the show, and you are subject leader for physics in a secondary grammar school, aren't you, in Buckinghamshire? Could you just tell me a little bit about your typical day or your typical week in your current role?
I mean, probably most of my time is obviously taken up teaching physics lessons. I'm predominantly physics. I teach Key Stage 3 biology and chemistry as well, but up to A level I do the physics subjects. Apart from teaching lessons, it's kind of overlooking the curriculum, offering support to other physics teachers as well. There's probably the majority of it, as well as all the other kind of parts of the teaching that are involved in kind of the admin side of stuff, checking your emails twice a day.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to curriculum design, presumably there's quite a lot of input from the national curriculum and things that have to be followed. When it comes to, you said you're obviously taking a lot of time in your physics because that's your main discipline. But I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about how the conversations go when you're thinking about the curriculum input for the multidisciplinary aspect. Is that something you have much of a say in, or would you say you're very much delivering content that others have, other specialists have prepared?
I think as a department, everybody gets their input. I mean, there's a specification that we have to make sure we teach, all the parts. I'm predominantly talking about the GCSE and the A level. We do have flexibility in the order that we teach things, and I think in science we have like a spiral curriculum, so stuff that teachers or that students study in years 7 and 8 kind of gets restudied at GCSE and then in A level. So there's kind of a lot of overlap with it every year, and it kind of builds on the subject, on the students' knowledge. But we do, as a department, kind of discuss where we're going to fit things in like the teaching schedules, so that students are kind of like building on their knowledge in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really brilliant. Thank you. I mean, have you always, obviously your degree was in physics, was it?
Yeah. Physics with space technology.
Oh, wow. What drew you to that? I mean, that's fascinating. Tell me a bit about your interest in the space technology side.
Honestly, I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. And
who doesn't, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought studying physics with space technology was a good way to become an astronaut. Mm-hmm. I've just always, I don't know why, ever since, I don't know, being as early as I can, always enjoyed physics and just found it was probably my strongest subject at school. And actually, to talk about like the influence of teachers, I remember it was a parents' evening, and I really kind of admired my science teacher, or my physics teacher actually. And I remember at the parents' evening, he said to my parents, Barry's probably one of the best physicists I've ever had the pleasure of teaching. And
wow.
I think from that moment forward, it was physics. Just
Physics.
from that small comment, yeah.
Oh, that's really brilliant. I mean, tell me a bit about, when you became a teacher and you did you PGCE or another routine?
I did a graduate teacher program.
Okay.
So yeah, I was completely school based. And I kind of, after graduating from university, I did a whole host of different jobs. One of them, I worked for PGL in France. and absolutely loved it. And that was kind of the first inkling I had of, actually, maybe I should consider teaching. And I went to a local school to find out more about teacher training, kind of get into teaching program. And
Okay.
I remember I kind of went to find out some more information. And as soon as they found out I was interested in teaching physics, it was kind of
You couldn't
job
escape.
done, sold. Yeah. And they wanted me to start teaching physics, and I wanted to start teaching physics as well. So yeah, I got onto the graduate teacher training program, and never looked back.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. And when you were doing that, did you teach across other scientific disciplines as well? What was your sort of induction into sort of teaching in the sciences?
I really have predominantly been physics, because my training was in a grammar school. So I was fortunate enough to kind of teach physics from year 9 onwards, and then there's always been a little bit at Key Stage 3 where I had to teach the other science disciplines. I've taught in another school where I had to teach chemistry and biology as well. I definitely find more comfortable in my specialist, and it's just obviously being in a grammar school, I generally teach within my specialism.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, because I mean, some of the conversations I've had with other science teachers is that people find it's quite a challenging one to get into, because obviously there's such a shortage of science trained professionals, and one of the things that people worry about is that they end up teaching outside of their discipline. So I mean, you sound like you've been really, really fortunate in that you have been able to stick very much into your discipline. But I wonder if you could, if you're willing to, just tell us a little bit about either an experience that you yourself have had, or a trainee perhaps that you've worked with where you felt that that was a real challenge, and putting people very much outside their comfort zone. I wonder what your thoughts are around that.
Oh, I mean, it's when I have done it, it's definitely challenging. I mean, the biggest challenge outside of my discipline is kind of being able to stretch the students, because naturally when you're teaching science, hopefully, and generally I do find the kids are curious about the world around them. So they're always asking questions. Now, if they ask me a question about a physics subject, I can pretty much offer a sound explanation to their question, but when I've been teaching outside my specialism, it's kind of what's on the specification, what you have to teach, but then if students kind of throw questions at you that you're not as well prepared for, you're less well equipped to deal with it then.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, it's that confidence, isn't it? I wonder, Barry, we're losing the quality of your sound a little bit. Are you close to your router at home? I wonder if you're able to go a bit closer to it, please.
I can try. Hold on. Okay, I'm closer to it now.
Hopefully that'll clean that up a little bit. It's not been too bad at all, but there was those slight intermittent dropouts there. So thank you for that. No, it's such a fascinating area, because I've definitely as I say, there's been trainees who come in, and I think that's one of the big challenges, isn't it? That they feel that when you're just starting out as a teacher, and you perhaps are being told don't smile till Christmas, or perhaps you're being told that you really need to make sure that you don't show any fear, and the kids can smell it, and if you're already feeling that kind of insecurity because you haven't quite mastered your craft, and then you add in the extra burden of perhaps not feeling very confident in a particular discipline, it's it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think even teaching in your discipline, you still get students throwing questions that you've never even thought of. yeah, they'll throw them at you, especially kind of lower down in the school. Actually, kind of then they'll really, I don't know, their imaginations kind of have all kinds of questions they want to ask, and sometimes unpicking what they're trying to answer still kind of tests you.
Yeah.
So
I'm
you
going to
kind
regret
of
this question. I'm going
go
to
for it.
regret this, but I wonder if you could. What would you say in an explanation that non-physicists can understand? What would you say is the question that's really just stopped you in your tracks?
Honestly, I couldn't remember off the top of my head. I just remember there was a few in my year 7 class, and it was just something like, I don't know, something like what would happen if the sky was infinite and the ships never disappeared over the horizon or something. It was just the most
Yeah.
crazy random thing, and I didn't know how to answer it. I just had to try and work out what they were asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely random things.
No, the imagination questions of
Yeah.
children defy imagination, don't they? Sometimes.
Yeah, because then you say, but that question, it doesn't make sense. That's not possible. But they're just like, but what if it was possible? I just mean, just what if hypothetically,
Yeah.
you know. So the kind of answering those kind of questions is quite difficult.
Because I get this, because I teach philosophy, and one of the modules that I teach to year 10 is the philosophy of science.
Yeah.
And we spend quite a lot of time with me saying, right, tell me about Big Bang hypothesis, tell me about theory of evolution, whatever it is that, trying to get them to really explore, the language of it. And, I say, well, what's wrong with this question? What happened before the Big Bang? And they're going, and trying to like really unpick about the absurdity of the suggestion that.
Oh, sorry, you just dropped out then.
Oh yeah, sorry. The absurdity of the suggestion that if you're making a claim about time and space having to come into existence, that there would have been any sensible way the word before could have been used. And then they're going, oh, stop it, miss, our brains are hurting. So you do get that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I do really enjoy teaching about the Big Bang. Actually, it's probably one of my favorite topics to teach about. But I'm quite open with with the students. I kind of say, right, this is the limit of my kind of understanding as a human being. We don't have the answers to everything. This is the evidence that we have, and these are the models that we have to kind of explain our observations. And kind of, Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, how do students respond? Because I think I don't know if I can go so far as to say, I think sometimes our students can be tempted just to say that science has got all the answers, the end. And when they start to dig in and you start to explain that actually there are limits to what is possible within science, and that it is a continuous process and things like that. How do you sort of have those conversations in class?
I kind of, in some sense, I kind of can preempt their questions. I mean, like the one people always ask is kind of obviously what was there before the Big Bang, and they always ask what's outside. What's at the edge of the universe. So when I kind of start the lessons, I kind of say to them, we don't have answers to these questions, but I say kind of my brain can understand it a bit easier if I talk about the observable universe. And I explain to them what we mean by the observable universe. And it just makes it a bit easier for our human brains to comprehend that, I think.
Yeah.
And the students feel a bit more comfortable with, right, okay, so we're talking about the observable universe. And then that makes it a bit more comfortable, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the use of language is something I personally find really fascinating, and I could go on about it, but I'm not going to. You're going to be glad to hear. But it's really interesting in trying to frame their sort of ideas about what science is and what the limits of science are, and that kind of things, and really talking to them about sort of the philosophy of it is fascinating.
Yeah.
I was really interested. You were talking earlier about your wish to be an astronaut. Have you visited any space centres or anything like that? I don't know.
No, I haven't. I would love to. I mean, I just go back to that story. I'll never forget that, because I said about the influence that teacher had on me when he said, "Oh, you know, one of the best physicists I've ever had the pleasure of teaching." But on the same kind of note, I remember we had a careers kind of day at school, and you had to fill in the paperwork saying what you'd like to be when you're older. And I actually put astronaut on it, and their careers advisor came and got me out of a lesson once and said, "Right, you know, I've got your paperwork here. Can you take this seriously? You know, you've put astronaut on there. Take this seriously." And I was like, "No, I'm being serious. I want to be an astronaut." And yeah, so it's something I wanted to do as a kid. It's not something I've ever wanted to do as an adult after studying space and kind of what it does to your body. And I think I'd probably pass on that. I think I'd struggle enough experiencing free fall by jumping out of an aeroplane, let alone being an astronaut.
I've done that. It's a weird feeling. I did that many years ago, and you kind of just, you don't feel like you're falling. You just feel like you're kind of in the sky, and it's noisy. And then when the parachute opens, you kind of feel like you go up. It's very odd. It's very odd sensation, and it's like really abstract. I mean, why would anybody jump out of a perfectly good aeroplane? It's a very existential thing to do. That's really interesting. I visited NASA years and years ago. I went and I got a tour around in Dallas, sort of Houston, obviously, and they had all the the modules and stuff like that for the International Space Station, and it was all in this like really massive swimming pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool, but really much deeper as well. And all the astronauts were in there, and they were all like swimming around inside this submerged pod to practice going in and out through all of the hatches and stuff like that. It was really interesting. If you ever get the chance, it's well worth going to have a look at some of these places.
I'd probably feel quite jealous seeing the astronauts actually training. I want to do that.
and do you know what else I did? I went into the room, where the director's chair where they had Houston, we have a problem, and you can go and see that. It's like a museum archive, and half of Mission Control is like kept as a museum, and the other half is like the modern Mission Control that looks like the ones you see in the film. It's really, really interesting. Anyway, you've brought you on here to talk about you, not to listen to me and my holiday recollections.
No, that's fine.
So I thought the next thing we could talk about a little bit, because it's so interesting talking about education in general, but of course all of this wonderful physics knowledge has to come across in a sort of pedagogical way, doesn't it, for the students? I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how teaching and learning goes in physics. And obviously you have the extra excitement of the experiments and the risks that go with those. I wonder if you could talk us through any memorable practicals you've done and the kind of issues that arise around practicals in sciences.
Joe, I think the students always enjoy practicals. I think they have to be done carefully. In science, there's required practicals that students have to do. Probably, I'd say the best practice for practicals is to get the most out of it. And talking to students, they generally agree with this as well. Is to do the theory first, then get the students to plan the practicals themselves, and then they do the practical. The trouble is obviously that takes a lot of time if they're planning the practicals, and they can, they come up with their own individual plans, which makes it harder to manage. But they get more out of it doing it that way. And it can be, tempting because of time constraints sometimes to kind of say, like, for example, we're doing Newton's second law today. We're doing F equals ma. Here's a practical, and the students get on with it. You put them in groups, or they choose their own groups, however you decide to manage it. And then, if they haven't planned it and they haven't thought about it, you can probably end up in a situation where they're kind of blindly following some instructions and not fully understanding or comprehending what it is they're doing and why they're doing it. In terms of enjoyment, I find they like the more open-ended ones. So like I say, the ones they can plan. And I remember giving some year 13s, we was doing circular motion, and I gave them a hot rods car kit.
Okay.
Is that what they're called?
Hot Wheels?
Hot Wheels, that's the one. Hot
Oh,
Wheels.
I've got so many Hot Wheels. We've got a lot of Hot Wheels in this house.
Yeah. So I like playing around with toys, and you can use them to talk about physics and energy and all sorts of things. And I said to the year 13s, right, we've got this Hot Wheels track. You've got one car that's like, you pull it back, it's spring loaded, so it stores its elastic potential energy, and you let it go and it goes forward. I would like you to calculate the largest vertical loop that this car could do. And once you've calculated it, you can build it out of the track and see if it works. And that was literally the task I set them, and they just all kind of just knuckled down, tried to come up with their theories and do their calculations. And then they all trying to build a loop and see if their car were going around. And they were just so engaged. But it was what they got out of that the most was actually probably the enthusiasm and the kind of the open-ended problem solving, and their own kind of like creativity. And it actually kind of, they were more focused on the theory, trying to calculate the size of the loop, than they were actually, initially, they didn't all like dive in and just start to try and build the loop as quick as they can. They all wanted to work it out first, which was, really, really good.
No, that's really brilliant. Thank you. So another thing that I know about you, Barry, is that you do enjoy your technology. Could you tell me a little bit about how you use technology first in your teaching and learning?
So I mean, I am surprised, or not surprised, kind of almost shocked that I didn't start using it earlier, because earlier in my teaching career, I had been told about certain websites that you can use to teach physics, and you can set students assignments on them. And I kind of, at that point when I was being told about it, I just did what I always did, and I was like, oh, that's fine. I'll look at it one day. I'll carry on doing what I've always done, and I'll use textbooks and take in the books and mark their textbook answers. And I did that for years and years and years, and then the pandemic happened, and everything went online. And I thought, well, I better start looking at these like online resources that I was told about. And it literally changed my teaching. Just the benefits of it were so good. Can
you give me an example of something that you've really used, on your teaching and learning side?
Yeah. I mean, I know my head of science is probably listening, so I say hi. But I go on about this all the time. Isaac Physics. It's kind of a joke. I'm always Isaac Physics. It's a fantastic website. You can set students problems on it, and some of them are really quite challenging. Doesn't tell you the correct answer. It just tells you if you get it tells you if you get it right or wrong, and it gives the students feedback if they get it wrong to kind of nudge them in the right direction. So that's really good at students practicing their math skills. Use all of the kind of like classic ones like Plickers and Kahoots to get instant feedback.
So how do you manage, like, because one of the things that I've been thinking about with teaching and learning as well is that if you're using something like mini whiteboards or something like that, how do you because you're kind of giving yourself quite a lot of cognitive load, aren't you, to try and sort of manage all of those answers? How do you find the technology helps with you kind of to do that sort of assessment on the go, as it were, in your lesson?
Yeah, so I mean, some of those resources are really good, because when the students submit their answers, you get the reports, you get the feedback straight away of kind of any questions that they have struggled with. they pretty much all do that. So it makes it really easy to kind of have a look at the class in a snapshot and see how they're doing, kind of use it as a hinge question, and kind of see what direction you want to move forward with the lesson. And you can address the questions they get wrong, quickly as well. And I also really like to turn it into like a reward system as well. So I generally have this thing that anybody who does, gets 100%, I'll reward them with house points. So it's a really, really useful tool.
No, that's really brilliant. Thank you. So, the technology, of course, goes beyond just the teaching and learning, because, of course, workload is a big issue for teachers, isn't it? So, I mean, without being too specific, how do you go about using technology to support yourself as a practitioner?
As well as using the resources for teaching and learning, I also use an online planner, and I kind of it links. So the planner I use links with the schemes of work, so it kind of really reduces my planning load. Kind of like automatically, kind of organizes my lessons for me on a weekly basis. It will tell me the lesson titles, objectives, resources that I need, and then it makes it easy to kind of juggle my lessons as well because it's online.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of helps you to kind of plan for any practicals and things like that as well. Yeah.
Well, because the resources are already populated there from the scheme of work, and I'll tell you what else I find really useful with it, and I know other teachers that use the same planner find really useful, is the long-term planning. Because your lessons are planned from the scheme of work, you can literally move all the way to like the end of term or the end of the year and see roughly where you will be.
Yeah.
So that's really, really handy.
No, it's always good, because we've, as you say, since the lockdown, it's really accelerated our use of our technology, hasn't it? And how would you say colleagues respond to the use of technology in the classroom in general? Would you say that people are pretty open to it, or would you say there's still a bit of resistance?
It's interesting. I think there is resistance, and I think it's the same resistance I felt when I was, like I said, like when I was first introduced to online resources and people would tell me how good it was. And I would be, okay, yeah, I'll look at that one day because I've got lots of other things on my to-do list at the moment. And I think it's the same.
So
teachers
what
are busy.
Do you say to colleagues when you feel like when you kind of can sort of see the fear in their eyes, if you like, the kind of the panic that they're so stressed, they've got so many things on, what would you say to a colleague who was perhaps wanting to but not really sure where to start, or feeling that it was going to be too much, another extra thing to add into their already very full to-do list?
To be honest, I think you can show them, but then it's kind of up to them if they want to use it. I've shown people some of these like online planning resources. Some really, really like it and run with it and use it. Other people just stick to what they know. So it's entirely a personal choice, whatever works for the individual.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just, from my point of view, when I've tried to engage with certain platforms before, and once you kind of realise that it's revolutionised, it's like you don't know what you don't know, and it's finding ways to get people to give things a try, isn't it? But it's a scary thing, isn't it, when you're already very time poor and very up against it, to kind of feel like you've got to stop and learn something new can be quite daunting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, the long-term benefits, because obviously I've been teaching physics for a while, so all my schemes of work that I teach from are well organized, so I can literally use an online planner and it will literally plan everything for me. I'll stick my timetable on there in September, link each class up to a scheme of work, and the majority of the heavy load of my planning is done. I just do the tweak. I just have to tweak it as I go through my lessons. So it makes a huge takes a huge burden off me.
it's all about thinking about what can be automated in a productive fashion, because there's a lot of talk at the moment, isn't there, about people being concerned about AI and the influence, and whether we're all going to be replaced by robots or whatever. I say that, obviously flippantly, but people are concerned that there's a certain skill that is particular to the human being, which is lost when we start to rely on AI. But I think you make a really good point there, which is to say that there are some menial tasks or sort of the heavy lifting or whatever that if we can automate it, then that's good, and we ought to, because that frees us up to be more creative and to be more nuanced in the delivery, which before we might have had that time taken away with a task that really could be automated.
Yeah, I mean that Chat GPT, it is amazing what it does. The planner that I use does have that integrated into it, so it can, if you've got like a lesson title, it integrated into it is the ability to plan a lesson using Chat GPT. But it's never like 100% perfect. It will generate a lesson plan, but you still it will tell you like lesson objectives, suggested activities, resources, suggested homework. But I think you couldn't just do that. You still have to go and tweak it for your class.
Exactly. I mean, I've used it to write an essay, and I just said OCR, religious studies, whatever topic, 15 marker, 2 Bible quotes, whatever, and it pops it out. But you definitely still need to make it appropriate for your class, don't you? And that's where our knowledge of our students really comes in, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's that personal touch and the knowing your students.
Yeah, I'm just going to, so we've got about sort of 18 minutes, excuse me, left of the show. And I'm just going to remind, excuse me, anyone listening that if you are able to and you wish to call in, then you can post questions in the chat, and you can ask questions for myself or for Barry to answer. If you want, just call in and speak to us. You can download the Podbean app and visit ttrradio.org and click listen live on the homepage, and this will take you directly into the show, and you can post your comments and join the conversation with myself and Barry. So if anybody did want to call in or pop a comment in the chat, please feel free to do so. You can call in by pressing the icon at the top of the screen on your phone's app, and I'll be able to connect you. So please feel free. There's my waiting time. That's the bit I'm really bad at. And I know I'm doing it as well. No, that's really brilliant. So let's think, as we sort of have our last sort of 15 minutes or so, let's have a think. Teaching, obviously, in the United Kingdom and all around the world is facing, particularly in terms of science teachers, there's not many people applying, and there's not many of you, and there's been a lot of big bursaries out there, and a lot of people perhaps not staying in the profession. I wonder, where do you see the situation going? Have you got any thoughts on the outlook?
Sorry, it just cut out. I didn't quite hear the question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just to say, we know that we've got recruitment and retention crisis, especially in the sciences, but across the board. I wonder what your thoughts are about, the direction of travel. What do you see the profession looking like in sort of, 5-10 years time? And what are your sort of long-term thoughts about, staying in the profession and so forth?
I mean, there's a lot to unpick in that, I guess. I feel, me personally, I'm very fortunate to work in a really good school. The students are fantastic. The staff body is fantastic. It's really supportive staff body. So on a day-to-day basis, I really enjoy my job. I think there's probably a lot of I know there's a lot of variation between schools. Other schools I've worked in, it's felt very different. And
what would the differences be mainly?
I think, I mean, two big ones for me are the behavior of students and support you get from the colleagues. I mean, it's difficult because here we have a grammar school system, so we've got selective kids, which I think has an impact as well. But I think if you're new into teaching, and I think if you had I was just thinking like a tougher time in a school, I can imagine why that would put people off of teaching and they would consider other careers instead. I was reading a post just the other day on Twitter. I can't remember who shared it, but it was like a teacher had shared their experience of their school day.
I think that might be Tom Rogers' post, who's the founder of this radio station.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I was just reading that, and the post was something like, "And people can't believe this is actually real. This happens." And I was thinking, man, that does make it sound really tough. But yeah, that's completely different from my experience of teaching.
It happens though, doesn't it? I mean, we've all been there. I certainly, when I read that, I could relate to it, and you just thank your lucky stars that it's not a day-to-day reality. But I know from colleagues who've gone to work in other schools quite recently have told me a few tales that would make your hair stand on end. So I think you're right. It doesn't have to be like that, but unfortunately for some colleagues, it definitely is like that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's telling because the most common comment I get when people say, "Oh, you're a teacher," is, "I could never be a teacher."
But the holidays, Barry.
Why do people think that? Yeah, but I didn't become a teacher for the holidays.
No, I know.
But why is that what people say? And that is literally like probably like 80% of the time people say that when you say, "Oh, I could never be a teacher."
So it's definitely has its challenges, and I think that one of the things I've found is that if you are going to be a place where it's, you got me again?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's breaking up. I didn't hear the question again.
Yeah. All right. Oh no, I was just saying that it's not quite a dichotomy, but sometimes if you're dealing with the hardcore behavior management all the time, then perhaps you find that that's where your energy goes, and there's not a great deal of marking and so on, because not a great deal of tangible work is produced. But then if you have like students who produce reams and reams and reams of essays or whatever, I think the grass perhaps isn't always greener, but it's tough whichever way you look at it, because ultimately we've got a big responsibility, haven't we, for trying to do the best for the young people, whoever they are. And I'm sure that there's some very high achieving students who have all kinds of anxieties and problems of their own. So it's I just think we just need to make sure we're this shout out to everyone in the world of Twitter, but we just need to be kind to each other, don't we? Because we're all dealing with challenges day to day, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's it's a great job. How
better
do we?
Better than being an astronaut?
Yeah, man. There's no risks of radiation being a teacher. And I don't like heights either, so I don't think I'd be a very good astronaut now.
That's interesting, actually, because I found the older I've got and the more I understand about the physical world, because I'm not a scientist at all, but I did an Open University degree, and so the first part of my Open University degree was basically natural sciences. So I've got like a HNC in natural sciences, and I had to do a physics module for that, and I did have to kind of go and I think we had to grow some seeds, some grass seeds that had been exposed to gamma radiation, and then see how well they grew and all of that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting, but I have found the more that I understood about physics, the more I was like, I like driving on the motorway. Now that I understand how physics works, I definitely don't want to drive in front of a massive lorry. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know, I do. Do you know, I think I'm guilty of probably taking my knowledge of physics for granted, and kind of just assuming that it's something everybody understands, like how things move and acceleration, velocity, and forces. And I remember like talking to somebody about the seasons, and they had no idea why we have seasons in the UK. And I was like, I was just amazed that somebody didn't know that. But I guess, as a physicist, it's kind of like, I take it for granted that, why we have seasons. And I think it's, for me anyway, it's just important to understand the universe that we're in and how things kind of work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what would you say is the most terrifying physics fact that really kind of would give you pause and keep you up at night?
I don't think there's any physics facts that worry me and keep me up at night. I mean, I think there's lots of fascinating ones. I always like to repeat to classes. I think it was one Brian Cox said on one of his programs that when you talk about the atom, that it's mostly empty space, and if you were to take the entire human population and remove all of the empty space from their atoms, the entire human population would fit into a sugar cube. I think that's crazy.
Mind blown. It's just, yeah. I mean, I heard a really good quote, because as I said earlier, we talk about the Big Bang hypothesis in my philosophy of science lessons, and just the idea that human beings are essentially the universe's way of experiencing itself, and then you just go, that's so deep.
I was going to say that one actually, but then I went for the sugar cube one instead, because I was going, let's just go with the physics one instead of the kind of philosophy one, because I say that to the students to try and blow their minds a bit, because quite often if you kind of Google the most like what's the most amazing fact, and quite often the one comes up that it's that all the atoms that make us came from inside stars, so we are essentially stardust. And then I say to my students, actually, I don't think that's the most amazing fact. I think the most amazing fact that if the universe is all space, time, and matter, then we are essentially the universe, because we are made up of atoms. So we are the universe experiencing itself. And I like what you said. I think that's just kind of, that's crossing over from physics into philosophy.
Yeah.
But I just think that's just, like you say, that's just like mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, I find it fascinating. As I say, I don't claim to be a scientist, but I do find it very interesting. And, you do get to some quite high levels of abstraction, don't you? And I think when I'm talking to students about sort of the big abstract questions about the Big Bang hypothesis, and then they start saying to me, science has proved this, science has proved that.
Hello?
Like,
sorry,
yeah, but Sorry, I've gone again. I just sort of the casual use of the word proof by year 10 students.
Sorry, I didn't hear you again.
No, just talking about the use of the word proof in science, and how students often tell me all of the things that have been proved by science, and you have to say, well, hypothesis means this, theory means that, and really unpick it for them. It's quite, I mean, I love all that kind of stuff, because that's the philosopher, isn't it? Okay, we've got just a couple of minutes left. So I'm just going to ask you one quick fire question, Barry, if that's okay. And that is, if you could change one thing about education, what would you change and why?
One thing about education. If I could, in an ideal world, probably more focused on just a love of learning and enjoyment, and not so worried about exams in an ideal world.
So do you think that exams actually put undue pressure onto students? Do you think that is a problem for maybe mental health and well-being?
I mean, it definitely has consequences, I think, on well-being. Yes. I mean, I couldn't. There's some kind of practicality, I guess, in a competitive world. You know, we kind of do need some kind of way of measuring. Do we need some way of measuring people's ability? I don't know. Maybe we don't. Maybe there's another way.
That's a big question. Perhaps that needs its own show, that question.
Yeah, that got me thinking now. Your quick-fire question.
Excellent. My work here is done. Now that's fantastic. Okay, Barry, it's been so great to have you speak to us this evening, and this is all going to obviously end up on a podcast which we can share widely in the teacher community. And thank you so much for everyone who's listened in as well. I'm just going to play a couple of messages before finishing off, but I just want to say thank you once again to Barry and Majay for calling in this evening, and it's been really interesting to talk to you, and I hope that you've enjoyed your experience of being on the radio.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
Thank you so much to everyone who's listened in this evening, and to Barry for sharing his ideas and wisdom with us this evening about physics and technology in education. I'm going to leave you now with our outro. Thank you so much. Remember that this show is here every other Tuesday evening, the Late Late Show. Many thanks to Barry again for speaking to us this evening. There are all kinds of shows on all kinds of topics all across the week, every single day on Teacher Talk Radio. So please tune in, come back another time and tune in and talk it out with Teacher Talk Radio. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.